Welcome, one and all, to the Ferret and Raccoon podcast, episode 178. I am the Angry Raccoon,
I'm the Indigenous Owl.
bringing you the last podcast of October 2021. And I just want to say right off the bat, it's awesome to have you on a second podcast on a row, or in a row, Owl.
I'm glad to be on it again.
Yes, especially as soon as we are celebrating October, which, in my opinion, maybe more or less around my area and where I live, not really been seeing a lot of Halloween, October-esque aesthetic around. I don't know if that's the same for you.
Yeah, same actually. I haven't really been seeing that either.
I think I saw.
There's like pumpkins and everything.
I haven't seen a single carved pumpkin.
Nah, same.
And I'm not saying there has to be. It's fine, you do what you want, but it feels like we're in an odd situation, especially when we're gonna do another discussion on Halloween and scary stuff. So it's a bit weird to some extent.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be like COVID fears of like I'm not letting anyone in my house, but
Probably. Yeah, that's probably what it
we'll
is.
see. But other than that, Al, how have you been over the since the last podcast? I guess.
Yeah, I've been alright. Not too bad. Like I haven't really been up to much since the last podcast, but I've just been like listening to a lot of music
Mhm.
as of late. I haven't really been playing much video games and such, but I've been getting really into like more like slowed down and reverb versions of songs that I tend to listen to. I don't know, it's just a different vibe. Especially like if you listen to it and like you're in like sometimes I listen to it like I just like have my light off in my room and I just listen to the music. It just gives a different vibe altogether. So I just feel like I've just been kind of just in a musical vibe, but just been off the video games for now. But that's it really for me.
Do you have an example of a song that's definitely been on repeat?
I would say let me see now. I've been listening to Frank Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
What's the song that I was in particular? I've been listening to the song "Thinking About You."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the slow down version of that song. So it's really interesting. It's just nice hearing the. Yeah, I feel like the slow down version is kind of better than the original for some odd reason. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a different vibe.
Interesting. I would make a recommendation. Maybe look up the music genre of vaporwave as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll have a look at that.
It's basically like slowing down and heavy reverb and kind of carries a sort of like nostalgic aesthetic with it. So I'll probably have to maybe throw you some sounds and songs your way. But yeah, I haven't actually done anything over the last 2 weeks. I'm still in a very busy process and things keep changing, so it's very hard for me to get in and do things. But I am well aware that we are at the end of the year and yeah, there's still things I want to watch and do, so in a bit of a panic mode. But other than that, let's get straight into the trailers and topics we want to talk about, because we've got quite a few to get through. And the first one we're going to talk about, which is I think the last one that went up just before I closed off the podcast, and that is going to be for Uncharted, the film.
Yeah.
Based on the, I guess, blockbuster multi-billion-dollar million-dollar selling video game franchise from Sony. It is worth noting before we actually even get into this trailer that this film has been in development hell for a while.
Oh wow.
So it's no surprise that this film, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions, looks like a mess. Anything you want to add, Al, before I go off on this?
Yeah, I'll quickly add, and then I don't want to hear this, but I was gonna say like I had no idea that. Well, I had no idea it was a prequel apparently or something like that. And like when I was watching it, I was thinking Tom Holland is Nathan Drake. I was like, he looks a bit like young to play as Nathan Drake. But then I looked into it and it's like, oh yeah, it's a prequel of a young Nathan Drake. But it just feels like a kind of like an action film with Uncharted just stamped on as the title. I didn't feel like I was watching a trailer for an Uncharted film, me personally.
That's a good word to use, stamped. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Tom Holland is fine. I mean, yeah, I guess he looked young. It's interesting you say prequel because this is no prequel. Because they reference all 4 films. Yeah, there's a reference to every single Uncharted game in this trailer, which is very problematic, and I'm going to get into why. It honestly feels like the director was shown scenes from the games and then told to put these scenes in the film. Because it's just like an unfocused highlight reel of the series. Like, it's so transparent in how it was made, and I'd imagine that's probably Sony higher ups going, it needs to look like this, you have to include that. And it's like, and it just feels like very much like, oh, remember this scene, got to have this scene in the film, or oh, remember this moment from the third game, and oh look, it's Chloe, you like that character, right? And it's very odd, because I said it on the last podcast when we talked about the Resident Evil film, and it's like, why have they mashed 4 games into one film? Like, one game could make a solid film. Like they're basically based off films. Those games, they're cinematic. What's the point in taking small elements or key elements from all 4 of them and smashing them into one film where it's just too much, in my opinion? Like, you've got Nathan Drake fighting on a plane, you've got him going to a suave club, you've got him traveling via boat, and if they are going to reference other games, and also, by the way, he's going to meet his brother as well. Like, and also we got all these villains to introduce, who will probably die within 30 minutes of them being introduced to get to the next villain. Because if you got to make all these references, you got to get rid of all these references to make way for the new references. And it's just proof that they don't plan on doing a sequel, and that this is a quick cash grab. Like, why else would they be trying to do all 4 films in one film? Or all 4 games in one film, excuse me. And also, it just looks cheap. Like, it doesn't look like a lot of money has been put into this film, and it looks like it was shot like 3 months ago, in my opinion. Like, to be fair, I will give the film props, and I always give trailers this, I guess, I don't know what you call it. I'll always give them this. The film is not finished. Things can change. The animation is maybe not finished. I'll give them that. But at the same time, it just no. Very disappointing, and I'm just sick of talking about these live action remakes, and I'm pretty sure, I guarantee you, at some point there's going to be some kind of junk interview with all the cast saying, oh, the director's a big fan of the games, and I'm like, no, he's not.
Oh yeah.
No,
oh
he's
my
not.
God.
No, he's not, because I already made that point on the previous podcast. If he was a fan of the franchise, he would not be destroying the franchise. End of story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, let me just use a random example. I like The Simpsons. I'm not going to go and make a live-action Simpsons film because I like The Simpsons. Case in point.
Yeah.
All right then.
Drop.
Exactly, yeah. Well, pretty much to some extent. Well, I'm not going to drop this mic. But yeah, let's move on to the next trailer. Something a little bit more, I guess, my steam. And that is going to be the trailer for Robin, which is going to be a stop-motion special directed and, I guess, animated by Aardman Studios, who are best known for the Wallace and Gromit series, Chicken Run, and a ton of other animated series such as Rex the Rant and Angry Kid. Some really dark stuff in their back catalogue if you actually want to go back and look. And yeah, Rex the Runt, in my opinion, is probably one of the most creative and underrated shows I think ever put on British TV, in my opinion. And I've only just recently looked up that someone or a channel to do with Aardman has just uploaded the whole series on YouTube. So please go and watch Rex the Runt. It's a fantastic but slow-paced series. Yeah, so we've got this... I guess animated series coming out for Christmas on Netflix, surprisingly enough, and this is just the cutest thing in my opinion. I can tell you right now, on Christmas Eve I'm going to be tucked into bed watching this. That's the plan for Christmas Eve right now. Yeah, it's really interesting, and as expected with Aardman's animations, I'm sure most people know of like all the things they've done in claymation and other I guess concepts. The animation, as expected, is top tier. You've got like this really nice, like handcrafted, like fabric wall-based aesthetic, which thematically really works with the Christmas and winter backdrop, which I absolutely love. Also, it's rather unique to have a main character who's a robin bird, who was raised by mice. That's like kind of a cute concept, especially when you actually look. Because I've watched a trailer a couple of times. Their movements are really interesting. They don't move like a bird, neither. They kind of move like a cross between a bird and a mouse, which is really odd. I wonder how much research they did for that, or if they're just making it up. This is how a bird would move. I don't know. But and also some great casting all around. I think the voice performance is really great, especially from Gillian Anderson, who's like the cat and I guess the main villain. She definitely has a evil cat voice. When you usually think of how a cat would sound, that's kind of how I'd imagine a cat would sound to some extent. But yeah, and the songs sound really cute. If this is going to be a musical, I don't know, but I typically don't like musicals, but I think it sounds good. Al, did you have anything to say about this one?
Yeah, I feel like this film's gonna be like, it's really nicely animated, and like I feel like it's just gonna be one of those heartwarming films. I just feel like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna go on Netflix, and I'm gonna watch this as well. Probably get some milk and cookies and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into the Christmas vibe and watch it. I do feel like maybe the story might be a little bit safe with like the whole thing of like a different species being raised by another and trying to find its identity. But I feel like it's still gonna be a good film nonetheless. But that's all I had to say on it, really.
I feel like that won't be the biggest crux of it to an extent, mainly because, to kind of expand what you said, I don't see that, like, for example, I would agree with you if he does become a mouse, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like, if he does get his wish and he becomes a mouse, then I would say, oh, that's a bit generic. But the fact that he, I hope, remains as a Robin, I think is what is interesting about that tried and true concept. So, yeah. But no, I definitely see what you mean with that. But yeah, Al, I believe you have the next podcast, or was I going to cover this podcast?
No, I was going to cover this.
Okay,
trailer.
go ahead.
I'll cover it for you. But yeah, so Home Sweet Home Alone. Okay, so I don't know where to start with this one, but okay, so yeah, so this is the sixth film in the from the Home Alone franchise. It's produced obviously by 20th Century Fox. And but it's on Disney Plus as an original, as Disney acquired the 20th Century Fox and inherited the film rights to the Home Alone franchise. I don't even know where to begin with this. This film just looks like an absolute disgrace. Like, when I saw the trailer, I was just like, literally, I saw the title, I thought, oh, Home Alone. I thought, okay, you know what? It's probably going to have the original. Sorry, my voice. But I thought it was going to have the original character as, like, if he's, like, him being older and then him having kids or something like that. I thought, okay, this is going to be quite exciting. So I was like, yeah, okay, this might be good. And then when I'm seeing the trailer now, I'm like, okay, all right. So I don't see the original cast members. Okay, fair enough. All right, fine. And then I was just like, okay, hold on a minute. What is going on here? It was just felt like the new characters, the people that are like, the acting was just awful. Like, it just felt like they were just reading the script in monotone. Like, there was no character behind anything. It was just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to read the script, but use the same tone of voice when I'm reading. And it's just like, oh, God. And I just felt so offended watching it. I felt like it's one of those things where Home Alone should have been just... I felt like with Home Alone, for me personally, I felt like it finished at number 2. It's one of those things where they shouldn't have touched it. It felt like Home Alone finished for me. It was like, yep, number 2 was the last film for me. That's it. They released 3 and 4, but sorry, they were shit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like, oh, God, I don't know what Disney's doing. I just feel like, oh, my God. No. Disgraceful. And then I see the likes as well on YouTube. I just thought, oh, my God, there's more dislikes than likes. And I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It just looks like absolute garbage, in my opinion. But that's all I have to say.
At time of recording, it has 79,000 dislikes on the official upload on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Oh, my God, that's crazy to me.
It is crazy.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Oh, you've just perfected. Yes, perfect. I barely have anything to add to that. You went in hard on this trailer, and it bloody deserves it. It's such a confusing film. Like what you were saying about how. Here's the thing: the original cast does not need to be brought back for this to be a Home Alone film. If you want to do a different cast and a different story, that's fine. But do a different cast and a different film. This is Home Alone 1 again.
Yeah, exactly.
Except you took one scene from the second film where his mother is talking about how he's scared and lost from the second film. Like, I don't really understand that. And it's so odd. One thing that kind of baffles me as well is I don't understand why they have these comedic actors like Aisling Bey, who's a fantastic Irish comedian and writer, Kenan Thompson, who most people know from Kenan and Kel and Saturday Night Live, and then you get Chris Parnell, who's also a very funny guy, in roles that waste their talent because they're not being funny, they're not adding anything, much like what you said, there's no character there. Like, because they're not the main focus, the kid Max is. If anything, why don't you have maybe one or two of these characters be the burglars? I would imagine Kenan Thompson could actually be a very comedic character in that role of, getting outsmarted by a child. But I don't really understand that. It's like there's nothing funny with what's happening with Max. I really don't. It's a very confusing film, and I don't blame anyone for disliking this. And at the same time, the point you made with like the main character's comeback, you do see a shot where one of the policemen has the badge that says McAllister, and I'm like, okay, what's the point in that? And secondly, when you were saying how it's going to be Macaulay Culkin, who was the actor who played Kevin, and his family, and that I've seen a ton of comments and a ton of ideas of people saying, I know one person said it, this is not my idea, someone said it, where they were saying how it should have been Macaulay Culkin, who is apparently a pretty still good actor, essentially with his family having to defend his house this time with his kids.
Yeah, that would be so sick.
That would, like, you could take a little bit of inspiration from John Wick there, and just be like, it's a house invasion movie at Christmas time, and me and the kids, we're gonna take out these criminals. We're gonna use technology. Why they didn't go down that route, I do not know. And it's funny because I think it's the fourth film that actually does incorporate ideas of a technological house. So I really don't understand. They're playing it safe, essentially, and it's a massive shame. Because Home Alone is one of those franchises that could work in today's age. You could nail it. You could do it because there is nothing more relatable or scary or whatever you want to call it than being left home alone and you don't know if someone is going to break into the house. It can work. It's just really disappointing, but then again, that's Disney and 20th Century Fox for you. Let's move on to the next trailer, something a little bit more, I guess, interesting and hopefully good, and that is going to be for Peacemaker, which is going to be a HBO television series based on the character from the more recent Suicide Squad film. And before we do talk about this trailer, in the link and the description, I have started the trailer for this at 26 seconds in, because the first, let's say, 25 seconds is a slight maybe spoiler for Suicide Squad, and I want people to avoid that just in case, because there are implications. So yeah, Suicide Squad was great. I think everyone's performance in that film was good, but I think John Cena really nailed his performance as Peacemaker, in my opinion. And so a series about him, I think, is a fantastic idea. Just watching the trailer alone, it kind of reminded me of like Ash versus the Evil Dead, in terms of like the setup and the tone, where it's like a character who's kind of already been through a situation, kind of continuing to deal with this situation, but with like newer characters on a smaller team. So it's very promising. Al, I know you said you've recently seen the new Suicide Squad film.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Are you generally happy about the fact that he is getting his own series, or do you at least like this?
I'm not too fussed about it. This character didn't really interest me that much, but I'm glad he is getting his own sequel. Not sequel, his own little series. I think it's nice. It's good for the character, and especially the fans that like the character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, for me, I just felt like, okay, he didn't really stand out to me at all, in my opinion.
Fair enough. I am liking this series in terms of the fact that it seems like it's going to be able to handle bizarre and comedic elements next to action and character development, which is something that can easily be done with a character like him, because I think he was an interesting character, just the way he composed himself and just the way he went about. He definitely had a personality, and that's a kind of character that you can definitely explore, especially for someone who is a superhero or wants to be a superhero that murders people brutally. So it is interesting. I mean, and the cast as well, some of the newer characters we have introduced, they are interesting, or they're going to be interesting to learn about in some sense. So I definitely think the trailer definitely made me want to know more about what's going on in some sense. It didn't just feel like, we're a ragtag team and we're going to stop the villain this time. No, it felt like there was something a little bit more going on there. Moments I really liked in this trailer was definitely that lady just running up and shooting that dead guy. That oddly felt relatable to some extent. You're the new person, you want to do your best.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the vibe it had. She just runs up two-handed, just shoots the guy, and he's like, you don't need to do that. Also Vigilante, the guy who's pretty much covered in that costume. His costume looks bloody stupid, and that's what works about it. He's just you can tell he really wants to be a superhero, and he really thinks he's some badass in like the most cheaply looking costume ever. And like I guess there's an eagle on the team as well. I'm wondering how that's gonna play into things. Like is that a superhero? Is it just an eagle? You know, I don't know. I'm not that big of a fan of DC because I'm sure someone's probably, oh, that's Neclacon from Detective Comics 658. How do you not know? You know, some rubbish like that.
Yeah, you know that you're gonna get them diehard fans.
How do you not understand who that is? Blatantly obvious. And you call yourself a DC fan. But yeah, really looking forward to this one. I hope it's good. I got my fingers crossed for this one. Next trailer we have is going to be a very small one. Is going to be for Catwoman Hunted. I should mention really quickly because we failed to mention that a lot of these DC-esque trailers came out because of DC's fandom event, which happened a couple of days ago. So they just released a bunch of stuff for the fans. So that's why it's DC-centric, in case anyone was wondering. But yeah, Catwoman Hunted. This is definitely an anime film. I think there's no doubt about it. Some of the characters have somewhat generic anime faces, and the obvious dub does not match the lip sync. At the same time, DC's animated films have a good track record as actually being better than a lot of their live action films. I would highly recommend just go and type up like scenes from these animated films. You'll be surprised how well they're written and how well the scenes are done. I was watching a scene from which film was it? Superman, Red Sun, and that's a pretty interesting comic and an interesting story. So just type in some other stuff and you'll see like they're like all the good writers are doing the animated stuff. Weirdly enough, it's all the hacks that are kind of doing some of the live action films, and yeah, it is really nice to kind of see a smaller scale story and kind of give Catwoman like a little bit more of like a spotlight, because I think she's an underrated villain, and hopefully they do expand on her character. And I like the fact that she's teaming up with Batwoman as well, because Batwoman as a character has a pretty rough year over the last couple of years, as we all know about the live action TV series. But it's nice to hopefully see her actually gain more fans, because I'm sure she's probably lost some. Al, do you have anything to say about this trailer?
I just felt like it looked like really well animated, and like I like the characters, the design of Catwoman as well.
Yeah.
I just thought like, oh yeah, she looks kind of just. I like the whole like new contemporary modernized look of her. So yeah, that's all I really had to say. Really,
she looks like a lady or like a woman. She doesn't look like too characterized to some extent.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything stupid like, oh, we're gonna make her look like an actual cat. You know?
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just like a cat burglar. She's a lady, and I like that scaled back tone. Next, was I going to talk about this one, or was you?
I can introduce it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll introduce it then. So the next trailer is Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. This is a video game. That's done by Rocksteady Studios, who also worked on the Batman Arkham series that was out on PS3. This game actually does look promising. I feel like the voice acting is really much in character. I feel like they know what they're doing. And but I was actually a bit shocked about I don't know if I got the character's name. It is Sharkman, isn't it? Or does he actually have a name?
I think he's just referred to that. I don't know if he has an actual name.
Is it actually name? Okay, I'm just gonna call him Sharkman for now. I was surprised, like, because obviously recently watching the Suicide Squad film, I was like, okay, he's gonna sound like, when he started talking in like full sentences, I was like, oh, I thought he was gonna sound like really primitive and like talking like broken sentences and stuff. And I was expecting him, because he always, in the film, he always said like nom nom, so I was like, oh, he's going to say that in the trailer, and he didn't. I was like, oh, damn it. I was just like, damn it. But overall, I feel like, yeah, this game looks like it's got really a lot of good potential. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with a lot of the things, like you said. Like, they've definitely nailed the chemistry between the characters, and I think the voice acting is really good. For the most part. I mean, that scene where they keep shocking the Penguin is a really good example of them just kind of getting it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I think I'm ready to see some gameplay now, because this game has been around for about a year. We've known about it. I was kind of hoping to see that. I mean, the story looks great, and it clearly has a big budget. Obviously, you've mentioned Rocksteady is making the game, so there's a lot of potential there. And I guess my main issue with the trailer, because it is a story trailer and it's just cinematics, is that it doesn't look like it's finished the game. I kind of feel like they probably should have waited a little bit longer to actually show off cutscenes, because some of those in-game cutscenes, their faces and their facial animations don't look great. Like, Captain Boomerang looks downright ugly in this trailer. that may be intentional. I'd imagine he's meant to be some kind of like, kind of sketchy, maybe he's drunk or intoxicated or whatever. I get that. He's kind of a bit big nose, kind of like red face to some extent. I get that. But there's a few shots where his facial animations and just how his face is, they did not look great. But yeah, I am looking forward to this. The concept is really bold, like trying to kill an evil version of the Justice League. That's cool. That's really interesting from a game premise. That's really interesting from a comic book perspective as well, although I'm sure that's been done before, but it's going to be very interesting in this media. My only wonder is how exactly the Suicide Squad is going to do that. Like, I know it's a more comedic game, and I hope that they actually beat the Justice League in creative ways rather than some superheroes swooping in and doing it after you do the boss battle.
Yeah.
I hope it isn't just, a pillar fell on him and he died. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Or, he coincidentally exploded, rubbish like that. I hope that it actually is like, snap, we're fighting Superman and we actually have to do some creative stuff to stop him. You know what I mean? Because I did see...
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, I did go through the trailer and you do see... Spoilers, you do see the good Justice League or good heroes, so I hope that isn't the case. But yeah, really promising, really promising. Yeah, we just need gameplay now, honestly. Just gameplay. Next trailer, I will bring this up, and that's going to be Gotham Knights. This is going to be the trailer for the Court of the Owls, another story trailer, another cinematic. This time around, it's for I guess you could say it's a spiritual successor to the Batman Arkham series. There's kind of a low-key spoiler in this trailer, so if you haven't played those games, maybe don't watch this trailer. But the atmosphere and the build-up was perfect, in my opinion. Like, really creepy, horror film-like, visually great. I loved, like, the scene of, like, Batgirl running away from, like, the Horde. Like, that really emphasized, like, the situation and, like, the power of, like, the courts. And, like, I hope that this section that they're showing off, like, actually takes a more stealthy and psychological approach. Because you do see there's one shot where Batgirl turns around and she's got one of the masks on her face. And there's, like, she's in, like, almost like a cubed room that almost reminds me of an asylum, and I'm wondering, are they gonna go down that sort of like Scarecrow-esque route, which is really interesting. But Al, do you have anything to say about this game?
No, not at all.
Fair enough. I can see you're a massive fan. And finally, last thing we're gonna do, talking about DC, which I believe you're going to introduce, Al.
Is it? What was it? Sorry, repeat again.
Next trailer, I mean.
Oh, no, I didn't have any notes on that one.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, my bad. We have the Batman, and it's not the official trailer. Oh, no. It's the main trailer. That's how you know how serious this film is. It's the main trailer, guys. And, okay, first thing we got to establish is that first opening shot. So, you do see, like, the police, they kind of come into this restaurant and they arrest the guy. And I don't know if you notice, Al, and guys listening at home, but when they arrested that person, there was, if you look very carefully, there was like a question mark in his coffee cup. There's a question mark.
Notice.
Yeah, there is. I didn't notice that either. I had to watch it 7 times just to kind of like double check that was a question mark. I think that person they arrested was Bane. Has to be Bane. I think that's a clue that it's Bane from the Batman series. Obviously, I'm fucking joking, but I don't know, that scene...
I fell for it.
Sorry?
No, I fell for it.
No, I'm joking because, like, I know that not everyone is, like, a massive Batman fan, and I'm not a massive Batman fan either, but that shot left nothing to the imagination. Like, even if you didn't know who that was, you now know that, that's, like, Riddler, must be. And it's also kind of a bit of a betrayal of the character. Like, the Riddler doesn't strike me as someone that rolls up to a coffee shop and goes, "Yo, you got a question mark stencil for my cappuccino?" Like, did he ask for that, or does he just bring that? Can't have my coffee without a question mark on it. Like, okay, I'm sure that's like some kind of clue he's left for Batman to find. But even then, that shot was just awful. I mean, this is such a mixed bag, in my opinion, this trailer. Like, it's so edgy. And you can tell it's edgy because they use the trendy slowed down version of Nirvana, Something in the Way. That's how you know it's dark. Whenever the Nirvana comes out, that's how you know it's serious. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, one thing I did like about this trailer is the Batman seems pissed off in this film. He seems angry. Like, he seems like he's probably going to kill someone by the end of this film. And intentional, I think. Like, I love how his anger, like, reflects in the combat, which I think looks pretty good. Like, it's quite visceral in some sense. Like, you kind of get a good sense that he's, like, beating the hell out of people. And that shot where he just gets, like, shot at, and the way his, like, you know, kind of shoulder leans back and he just goes off of that guy. That's some really cool stuff. That's, like, a very raw version of Batman I don't think you've really seen. Some other films have had, like, the fight scenes or the way he fights people is very, you know, swift and stealthy, and, you know, there's, like, a flow to it. But here it's just, like, he's just beating people up. And I kind of like that aspect to it. Like, and sometimes the visuals in this trailer, they look, like, really, you know, striking, really cinematic. Like, there's a very brief shot of, like, these masked guys on the subway train, or there's, like, that shot of him being, like, literally being shot at, like, multiple times in a hallway. All those scenes are really nice and really well done, very moody, very Batman-esque, I guess you could say, Gotham-esque. But then other times, I don't know about you, Al, but, like, it was too dark. I didn't know what was going on. Like, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I did notice that as well, yeah.
Yeah, that stuff that's kind of throwing me off, and, like, the silliness with, like, the Riddler and all that kind of stuff, and even the way the Riddler talks, something about the way he talks and the way he goes about things kind of makes me think that the person directing this film watched Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight a few too many times. Because that's very Joker-esque in Christopher Nolan's sense. And I really hope they don't decide to go, well, the Riddler's going to become the Joker because we've got to have the Joker in every Batman property. We just can't have Batman without the Joker, says the higher-ups at DC. But yeah. Anything else you want to add to this trailer?
Nah, that's it. You can wrap it up there.
Wow, fair enough. Al does not give a shit about the biggest film coming out next year, guys. Fair enough. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not massively into this film to some extent. Like, there's really silly stuff in this. Like, for example, you don't really see it in the trailer, but the Batman logo on his chest, that's actually made out of the gun that was used to kill his parents.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a bit silly.
Okay.
Because I get it, but at the same time, you know, if my parents was killed by a particular item, I wouldn't really want that item in my possession, personally. I'd want it destroyed.
Exactly, yeah, you... Okay.
Like, I get it, you're wearing the fact that why you are Batman on your chest, I get it. And also the Batmobile car is a bit odd as well. It's just like a car, which is fine, but it's like, it's not very iconic. Not very interesting. There's just a few things that are very worrying about this film. There's like I said, a mixed bag. You've got some really good stuff here. I think Robert Pattinson's performance is really good. He kind of seems like he's getting into the role. He seems like a very young Batman as well, which is nice.
Yeah, he does.
Which I do appreciate. Like, hence why I go back to him being, like, very angry. You know, like the fact that he's probably gonna make some mistakes. He's probably gonna hit someone just a little bit too hard. You know, I do like that. And the fact that he's like, oh, I don't care what happens to me. You know, and stuff like that. But yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely one to watch. But now it is time to actually talk about something really scary, and that is going to be our October Halloween discussion, which we're doing the second one in a row, and that is going to be Media That Frightened Us, the 2021 edition. And essentially we're going to talk about things that have, from our past or even recently, regardless of what they are, that have frightened us in some ways, and why they may have done that, and how we can kind of reflect on those things in some sense. And Al, I believe you're going to go first with your first, I guess, pick or choice, whatever you want to refer to it as.
So my first choice is actually Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
I played this game, well, I watched my aunties playing it, like, when I was younger. And then after, I decided to purchase the game a lot later, and I was like, okay, I'm going to tackle this game. And I remember when I bought this game, the guy was like to me, are you sure you want to purchase this game? I was like, yeah, I'll be all right, don't worry. He's like, it's scary, you know? And I was like, no, I'll be all right, it'll be okay, don't worry. I'd like to have the game. So I started playing the game at the beginning, I was thinking, yeah, it's alright. I'm getting into this. This is good. And then it's just like when you meet Nemesis for the first bit of the game, and then you literally is just like, okay, the game is like the cutscene with him in it, and then literally he's like, okay, yeah, run now, and I'm just like, okay. I was just literally like, oh my god, I was so frightened. I was like, oh my god, like I literally had to run as fast as I could. I didn't know what the heck I was doing because I went into the game completely blind, and I was just like running around all over the place. And then literally I got to like the safe zone, and then literally I was like, I think Obsidian was watching me play, and I was like, yeah, I just said to him, yeah, I'm not going to play this game. I'm going to save it, and I'm not even going to play this game ever again. I was like, nope. I saved it, and I turned the game off, and I haven't been back to it ever since. And I'm just like, I had to just put it on the shelf and just not touch it. But I was like, because like Resident Evil Village came out, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of invested in going back and playing like the Resident Evil games. I want to play it chronologically. I feel like it was just one of those things that scared me in the past, but now I'm ready to kind of just feel like, you know what? I want to conquer my fears and replay the game again, but I want to obviously do it in chronological order instead of playing it just randomly, because I was introduced, like when I first found out, like when I was first introduced into like the Resident Evil series, I think I watched the gameplay of number 2 first, then 3, but I never like saw the gameplay of 1 because we never had the number 1.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of people do have nightmares and issues with Resident Evil 3 thanks to Nemesis, because he just, like back then, that was one of the first examples of just something relentless being after you, and it can appear anywhere. It is really frightening. It really is a creepy concept. When you were talking about how you were playing it with Obsidian, it did remind me of that one time, if I will say real quickly. This isn't my pick, but I'll just say this real quick. When me and him, I think but we finally got a copy of the game Killer 7.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And we were so excited because obviously Killer 7, Suda 51, we've wanted this game for a while. I think we played like a good while of this game, and I do remember we got to a point where, because Obsidian was playing it, and Killer 7 is a very tricky game to kind of wrap your head around and kind of understand. Like, it doesn't really tell you anything. It kind of just says, you do it now. And I remember we got to one point where I think this is kind of like freaked out a lot of people anyway. You get to this point where you open up a washing machine, and there's just a severed head in the washing machine, and it kind of speaks to you, and everyone talks in a weird, I don't know the effect. There's like effect put on everyone's voice. It's like a digital, like kind of raspy, kind of almost alien effect. And this like voice talks to you and it tells you something, and then the door just shuts, and then you just get like the item. And I remember Obsidian just turning to me and be like, nah man, it's too late for this, man. I'm not playing this anymore. Because we were just like, what the heck? Because he was generally like, this game is freaky. It was like about 9 o'clock at night. But still a fantastic game. I guess I'm going to do my pick. And my pick is going to be for Alice from 1998. Not 1998, excuse me. 1988 by... I cannot say his second name. I cannot pronounce it. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. His first name is Jan, but his second name is pronounced Svankmager. Or you can just type in Alice 1988. And this is a very interesting and kind of freaky film. It is an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, but his own take. And it incorporates so many elements of animation, stop motion, and other just weird, bizarre things, and it does follow the story of the original story in a sense, but it kind of does some interesting deviations where Alice, who is played by a young girl, she kind of goes to Wonderland, and Wonderland is essentially a house or an abandoned house. And how you see all the characters that we know in the story are essentially presented in very creepy, not necessarily unintentionally creepy ways, but they're also kind of made up of things that you would find in a house, kind of giving it an element that this is just all in her mind and it is her imagination. And the film does have a rather tense feeling because you never know what you're going to see, because one of the first things you do see is the fact that the White Rabbit himself is like a stuffed rabbit or a stuffed toy, and he has to keep sewing his stomach up because he's like leaking, which already that's a weird visual. The Cheshire Cat is presented as the skull of a cow with legs and googly eyes. The caterpillar is essentially a sock with human teeth, which is really horrifying when you look at it, especially that whole scene, because there's like worms or like socks, I guess, in this context, kind of burrowing through the actual floor of the ground. It's really weird. Like, just if you just type in the film, you'll see how these characters look, and just a lot of really weird and bizarre scenes. Everything about it is just weird. Like, the pacing is weird, and it generally did like kind of creep me out and frighten me. One scene that did in particular was there's one moment where she actually meets the Mad Hatter and March Hare, and she walks into the room, and the moment she walks into the room, you just see these puppets just start screaming and shouting, and there's an alarm going off, and she shuts the door immediately. And then she goes back into the room, and they're perfectly fine having tea. And that scene itself was just really weird, because the Mad Hatter and March Hare are represented as actual puppets being controlled by someone, but you don't see who's controlling them. It's really weird, and that whole scene is oddly tense and really frightening, because as she sits there and has tea with them, they constantly keep getting up and changing seats, and the pacing gets faster, and the element of the ticking clock keeps getting faster, and it really alliterates that whole idea of like madness and being stuck in an endless loop, and that scene really creeped me out. It's mainly because the implication that that's just what they do all day, and that really kind of freaked me out. But the whole film does have some really freakish visuals. It's a wonderful film if you've never watched it. By far one of the most interesting adaptations of Alice in Wonderland, next to American Mickey's version. But yeah, I wanted to recommend that film. I'd highly recommend, even if you just want to, it's a film worth knowing about. Even if you just type in Alice 1988 and just look at scenes, you know, it's a wonderful film. Al, I believe you have your second one?
Yeah, my second one is actually Alien Isolation, the video game that you brought me one Christmas, like ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think I played like only 5 minutes into the game, and oh my god, like when I played it, I was like, okay, I was really excited. I was like, yes, Alien Isolation, I'm on it. And then I played it, put it up for the PS3, and I was like, yeah, really excited. And then like it's literally like the first 5 minutes into it, you're in like this dark room, and you're basically on the run from the xenomorph, and like literally I was like, okay, yeah, I can get through this. This is easy. It's fine. I've got this, no problem. And then like I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the lift now, and like the lift is taking long now, and I started to panic, because I was like, oh, I can hear something, like it was getting close, and I was like, no, it's okay. And then like it came to a point, right, where I started panicking, right. I had like the crowbar in my hand, and I started whacking the wall because the lift was taking too long. But I was literally yelling at the TV like, come on, like hurry up. I was like proper like getting frustrated, and like, it came to the point where like I gave up, because the lift was just coming super slow. I was just getting it was the thing of like, it turned from panic to getting into frustration to being like unbothered, because in the end I got caught by the alien and got killed anyway. So I was like, it was like one of those things that turned from fear to just anger to just I don't even care anymore. I just thought, you know what, I have to share it today, because I thought it was just an interesting thing of like how free emotions just ran through me that day on that game, on that specific game. And then after I got past that bit, I got up to, I think, yeah, it was just like the bit after, and I was like, yeah, you know what, no, I'm not gonna go back on this game. I've had enough. Nope. I just didn't revisit it since. I was like, I need to. But yeah, it's one of those games I'm just like, I'll leave for now. But I'll have to revisit at some point.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people have very similar memories they could share about that game. Because that game was all the rage. Not to say it's a bad game, but that game definitely had people like shook and scared. The interesting thing about the game, I think I saw that someone did like a 4-hour speedrun of that game.
Oh wow!
Where they kind of knew how to like, you know, avoid the xenomorph and kind of just do everything and run past everything and that, which is pretty impressive. But yeah, no, that's an awesome pick. My last pick is going to be one that has a few elements, so I'm going to be quite quick. I don't want to bore you guys on just like so many scenes from one thing. But it's a show I've talked about a couple times, and it's a show I think a lot of people remember and actually did scare a lot of people, and that is going to be The Mighty Boosh, which ran from 2004 to 2007, mainly created, written, directed-ish by Julian Barrett and Noel Fielding. Yes, Noel Fielding, the guy who's one of the hosts on Great British Bake Off. Yeah, that's him. I love this series. This series took me a long time to watch, because the first time I watched it, it scared the shit out of me. And I was warned already by a friend who was going to show me an episode that's like, yeah, people have had nightmares after watching the show. And I will say this right now, if you've never heard of it, it is a comedy. It's a weird kind of creative, prop-based, costume-based comedy, but it does have some really creepy elements, whether intentional or not. It's hard to say. But the one thing that actually scared me originally was the very first episode, which has both characters. I can't remember their names, but let's just say Noel and Julian. And Julian essentially, because they work at a zoo, and their boss has basically decided we need to drum up more people to the zoo, so we're going to have you, Julian, fight a kangaroo from Australia. And that's the plot of the first episode. And obviously he's a bit, worried about that. And he has like this weird kind of dream vision where it's almost like takes place in Australia. Everyone's wearing masks, but they're in tracksuits and they're like singing a song. Like it's a very vague song. And you find out what the song is about. And there's one shot in that scene that scared the hell out of me, where the scene is weird enough as it is. And then as they're performing, the camera just zooms into a rock, and you just see like a pair of eyes in the rock just looking back and forth, and the dream ends. That scared the hell out of me when I was younger. And this was like back in like 2006. And I was like, nah, Mighty Boosh, never again. That's freaky. Like the episode itself is like weird and it's funny. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I went back and watched the series and found out there's even more scenes in the series that are actually really creepy and that really kind of creep me up today. Even this, the first season as well, there's a character called Black Frost, who, just look up Black Frost, he's horrifying. Because he's essentially a bit like Jack Frost, but he will kill you. And he looks like he will kill you. There's another scene, which isn't the most scariest scene, but it's creepy. And that's when I think you meet I think he's called like the Spirit of Jazz or Soul. And the way the way the series presents him, he's almost like this kind of Louisianan talking, like smooth talking jazz kind of guy, but he has like a skull makeup on his face, almost like a Louisianan like witch doctor. And he has like this weird kind of composure as the way he moves and the way he talks. It's very like David Lynch-esque. And when you see him in the past, it's in black and white, and there's just something really creepy about him. And he has like this long black hair, and the way he talks, and like he is some kind of demon, despite being the Spirit of Jazz. And there's something very horrible about like him, and he does reappear again. But there's something really creepy about how they did him, which was intentional. And the last thing I want to quickly mention, which I do want everyone to go watch this scene, is from the very last episode. And there's a scene where a very famous director is talking about his films. And one film he mentions is a film that is referred to as The Doctor and the Pencil. And you see this scene, and it is horrible. Once again, it's in black and white. And you just have, I believe it's Noel Fielding dressed as this doctor, who has like black lipstick. He's like, his eyes are manic. He has like messed up teeth. And he's just sitting there in his doctor's room. There's a light swinging back and forth. And a guy dressed as a pencil with just as much of a horrific smile comes in. And he just starts shouting at him. Then like the doctor just gets a phone and a piece of meat and just starts slamming the phone on the meat. And every time the doctor does that, the pencil just screams. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, it generally did creep me out when I watched that for the second time, because it's taken me 3 attempts to watch Mighty Boosh, by the way. That scene creeped me out, but literally just type in the Mighty Boosh, the Doctor and the Pencil, and you'll see what I mean. You tell me that today I think it's one of the funniest things ever, but if a child saw that, they would be scarred. I'm just gonna say that much. But I would recommend the Mighty Boosh, by the way.
Okay, I have to look into this.
It's a really fun show, and when you go back and watch it, lots of very famous people were in it. You'll be surprised how many people pop up in it. But like comedians and other people like that. Like for example, one of my favorite actors, Richard Iwadi, is in there. For an example.
Oh, okay.
Because him and Noel Fielding are good friends and that. But there's a couple other people where you'll be like, oh, he's in this and he's in that. But yeah, Al, I believe you have the last one.
Yeah, so my last one is Rugrats Search for Riptar. It's actually the PS1 game. Now, I know this game is not a horror game, but there is actually a level called Let There Be Light. And basically, it's based on an episode where basically the Pickles household has a blackout in the household. And basically, in the actual level, you play as Tommy, and he has to basically try and find out like how to get light back in the house. So he tries to go to the fridge in the kitchen, and he's like, oh yeah, you can't open it because he's too little to open the fridge. So he has to try and find Spike. But here's the twist: you have these like 2D ghosts following you. Now they look stupid looking back at the game now, but I don't know what it is, but it's the sound design that came with the ghost. Because with this game, it's like it's a really really loud game with certain like not in terms of like the music, but like the sound effects are just really really loud for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like the ghosts, they make like this they don't have like a typical ghost like noise where it's like ooh or something like that. It's more like a different noise, but it's like they have a really really deep and horrible voice, and it just creeps you out. And it's not just one ghost that's coming after you, it's like loads, and they come at you in herds, and it's just really really creepy, and it's just it's horrible. And like you have to basically you have this torch, and you have to like obviously save the battery life in the torch, so
mm-hmm.
you have to use the light from the torch to scare the ghosts off, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like you have to it's like a mixture of like stealth and like trying to save like battery life and things like that. And you have to like the whole level you have to basically try and find Spike, and it's really really difficult to actually find him because it's just like they put him in the most random places in the house. And like finding the batteries as well around the level, it's just really really hard to find them. So it's just like if you run out, you're basically screwed, and you just have to run away from them. And it's just like, oh my god, I just couldn't finish that level as a kid. I was just like, nope. Every time I played Rugrats, I was like, nope, I'm not going to play that level. I'll play the rest of the levels, just that level I can't finish. Nope, I'm just not doing it. But now, and then after I got older, I replayed the game, and I thought, what was I so scared about? These ghosts are so stupid. I was just like, oh my gosh. But it was just one of those random picks. I thought, I'd have to mention it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that I've never really heard of before. I'm definitely going to have to look that up just to kind of see how it was presented in that. But yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, that's going to be some of the things that frightened us when we were younger. Some actually really interesting picks, I think. But yeah, October is pretty much over now, and I guess by the time the next podcast comes up, it's going to be November, and we're going to be looking toward the end of the year for everyone, because I know in England we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so yeah, November is like a nothing month pretty much for us. But yeah, I guess we can begin to end this podcast. I'm going to leave you guys with the video of the episode, which is going to be for Tierra Whack, I believe that's how you say her name, with Unemployed. Not the most overtly frightening or horror, scary, Halloween-esque video ever, but it's more the context and the ideas behind what she's rapping about and other aspects of this video that is kind of creepy, especially the ending. The ending always gets me and always creeps me out, even though it isn't the most creepy thing ever. But hopefully go and give her a listen. She really needs to release an album by now. No rush, but I can't wait to hear more music from her. She's kind of releasing music in a very slow sense. But I want to thank Al for being on this episode.
No problem.
And yeah, it's been fun having you on both of these October podcasts. And I guess I will end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon.
I'm the Indigenous Al.
And we will see you on the next podcast.